Hi, Coach. Tim Campbell here from NHL.com. You mentioned earlier during this training camp about how important it's going to be for players and even coaches to be adaptable, especially starting off with a best of five series. So, what makes a player good at being adaptable?
I think it's where it's confidence, really, Tim, and kind of where you hang your confidence. So, and this might be funny for me because I used to be fairly superstitious, but we get into these routines in the NHL and we stick to them because we think it makes us our best. It gives us the best opportunity to perform that night. And because it's so routine, and again, it's not superstition, but it's part of your preparation to be great. And then when things start to change around you, the key mentality is to understand that that routine, while it's comfortable, isn't the driver of you being great. It's all the prep that you've put in, and then the confidence that you have that you'll be able to perform regardless of the situations. So there are just an awful lot of stories over the course of time where the situation hasn't been set up for you to be great, and a player has, right? And the number of times a guy played with the flu, and that was the night he got a hat trick is great. I mean, right back to I don't know. It was in OHL finals where back when you used to drive up for the games and the bus blows a tire and you roll in 5 minutes before the game's supposed to start. You have a 5 minute warm up and you end up winning. So as long as you don't put so much faith into your routine, I guess maybe the word is you don't create a belief in yourself that the routine is the reason that you're able to perform, you will be very adaptable to all things that happen around you.
Thank you.
Morning, Paul. Ken Weeb, sportsnet.ca. Just doing something on Mark Scheifele. I know you mentioned it at the time, but what's the biggest value for Mark to get that first taste in 2015 when going head-to-head with a guy like Ryan Kesler, who was elite at the time, and in helping the learning process of what playoff hockey was all about?
So what's true for Mark in that situation would be true for every young player that's his first time in the playoffs, is that you can't really explain it till he gets there. The difference in how hard every play is contested is really significant. And it's not a matter of the players being casual. In the regular season, it's physically impossible to play that game over a long period of time. I mean, by the time you get to the final, your team's beat up, and so is the other team. So you need to get into it early, especially I think as a young player. If you can get a chance to get a feel for that, the competitiveness of it, then you take that into your next summer and the summer after, where you actually, guys like Mark, train with an idea of being great in the second half of that year, understanding what the demands of playoff hockey is going to be.
What's the biggest thing he's gained in terms of his experience, whether it was 2018 and then last year going head-to-head with the Ryan O'Reilly?
I think the Nashville series, when you can set an NHL record for road goals, and the style of that series and the style of game that he played, it's the high water mark, or maybe the benchmark of where he can get to, and then as he gets older and he increases his experience, he's going to be able to play that game and play it at an even higher level. We think that that's the pinnacle for Mark. That style of game, that line was so strong and so dominant. Maybe that's not the right word because it was such a tight series. I mean, they certainly played. They were the difference makers for us in that series. They were, and that's what they're going to have to be for us to hoist the Stanley Cup. That line's going to have to be the difference maker.
His love for the game is never in question, but do you see a little extra bounce in his step after a 4-month layoff? Or
I think all these guys are pretty excited about coming back and playing. I mean, I think 17 or 18-day training camp Ken takes a little bit of the bounce out of everybody's step. Right now, there'll be more bounce in a week, I think.
fair. Just last one. Are we to take a sign of progress from Ehlers skating with the first group, or is there anything you can tell us on that front?
Oh, he just skated with the first group, and we're happy that he did, and we'll see where he is tomorrow.
And anything with Harkins?
Unfit to practice.
Yep.
Hi, Paul. Ted Wyman here from the Winnipeg Sun. We all got a chance to see some information about what the secure zone in Edmonton is going to look like. What are your thoughts on how that environment will be for your team?
Well, interesting. I'll fire out that one first. This is going to be interesting. I know, so I sat through kind of that presentation. I know what's happened here. So I know what the equipment and the medical staff, and that's the entire medical staff from Pete McDonald straight through, what the workload that they've been under for the last month and a half has been, so impressive, and what they did to our facility here to make it compliant. And then you sit and you realize that the National Hockey League has been doing the exact same thing, right? I mean, they've got a section of a city cordoned off for us to be able to get around. And I'm you know what, I'm looking forward to get into it just to see some of those things. And I understand it'll ramp up as we get going here, but it's going to be interesting.
What does Sunday look like for your team? Is it practice here and then you leave? And
correct.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. And are there? I mean, there must be a lot of logistics involved with this last minute planning. Some players were saying they haven't even packed yet. That kind of thing.
Right.
Is it kind of a scramble, or is it all?
Yeah. You know what? I think you can almost tie it back to the first question today about this being adaptable. We're getting information on how things are going to happen far later than we normally would, right? The schedule's out, you know where you're going to be 8 months in advance. So some of the information comes late, and because they've had to work so very hard to get the right information out to us. So, so we have a slot to fly in. So you can't just roll into Edmonton anytime you want. There's a slot for us to land so that all the teams can be processed into the hotel without having 3 teams sitting in the lobby with no social distancing. So it's that detailed. And because of that, we're practicing in the morning, and because of, that's also a test day. So we've been testing every second day, and now we're moving into testing every day. So we'll practice really early again tomorrow morning, and then we'll let the guys go back and get their stuff, and then they'll head to the airport and off we go.
And one last one. Can you tell us if there are any specific players not going to Edmonton? I think your roster is at 33 still, isn't it?
Yeah, I can tell you that there'll be a 31-man roster by the time we leave.
Thank you.
Paul J. Bell from the Free Press. You go into training camps, regular training camps, with maybe a few questions, although you've told us in the past you almost always kind of have a real good sense of your roster before you go in. But this kind of a camp, this summer session thing, was not a lot of questions. I mean, how does that change things for you? How did it change us through when you knew you had healthy bodies, you knew what your goaltender situation, your lines, your pairings?
The difference would be that maybe in a normal camp at the start of the year, you probably have brought some new players in. There's also players that you're bringing up that you've kind of, penciled in, but say, it's time for this young guy to step in. But you're not really sure what you're going to get till you get into the regular season, so like a Tucker Pullman, right? So we're that kind of situation. It's almost the opposite that's going to happen here. You got a really good idea of where you were when you ended up, what your team looks like. It's healthy, away you go. But you're not going to wait very, very long because you don't have the kind of time. You're not given this 5 games to see if that line's got it going. You're going to have to make your adjustments very, very quickly, make hard decisions on who's going, who's not, and allocate ice time accordingly. So while you work your way into an NHL season with a whole bunch of unknowns, we have very few unknowns here as in terms of how we're going to start, assuming we stay healthy. But we won't wait very long before we make adjustments.
Oh, there's not a whole lot of fear factor when it comes to these guys. I mean, you listen to what Scheifele says, and they're jacked about facing Gaudreau, and they want to play best on best. That's what they get up for. And I mean, in your experience, is that what separates guys, or are they all to a man like that?
They're all like, playoff hockey is way better than anything else, right? Like the coaching dynamic almost completely changes, right? You're grinding guys during the regular season, right? Not everybody's real happy with you. You're not happy with everybody else. You get into the playoffs and it's all emotion, all excitement, right? it's a different kind of motivation from me to the players. They're driving. They want quick information, actionable information that they can put into the game, and then you want to let them play, open up the door, and away they go. So this would be like, I don't know, if you celebrated, the 12 days of Christmas, right? You got something on each one of the first 12 days. Really not that big a deal, but Christmas is gonna be pretty good. So the playoffs are Christmas.
But they have a desire to be best on best, don't they? I mean, they want to be able to see how they match up against the Monahan line and that great defensive core.
They want, right. I'm trying to, nobody ever dreams of scoring the game-winning Stanley Cup goal against the fifth line, right? You beat the best goalie in the world, you beat the best D in the world, and you beat the other best team in the world.
I'll try one real quick one. I'll try another way here that Teddy was asking you. Next Saturday night, do you anticipate the 18 skaters that you penciled in as your starting 18 to be ready to go that night?
Well, like with my finger, if it was Saturday night today, possibly. I you know what? I don't understand the question. I expect. I'm hopeful. Yeah, everybody, here's my answer. All 24 teams are really, really hoping they can put their best players on the ice.
Have fun in Edmonton, Paul. Thanks.
Okay. That doesn't happen very often. I mean, I pride myself on being able to come up with a fairly concise answer reasonably quickly. I'm sorry I beat that one to death so badly.
Got you before.
Paul, it's Sarah from TSN. I was just asking some of the players just about whether or not they're ready to leave tomorrow. Have you packed yet? Or is that something that gets done later today?
No, I've got it packed. I've been home for 3.5 flights. It was like 4 times in my career my wife has packed for me. Today was one of them. She's ready. I will not be allowed to be late tomorrow. Let's just put it that way.
It's just when you see, just following up just about kind of the bubble life and everything that's going to be available in there, what is it that stood out to you most?
It would be the idea of how much work had to go into making this happen, like an appreciation. So if I got 23 guys and we get here real early in the morning, we leave real late, and we put a lot of time into every practice, all the video that we cut, all of those things. And then there's a whole group of people that had to move 12 teams into this environment, which would be an enormous task if there wasn't the COVID situation attached to it, all the testing, all the safety precautions. That's the thing, that they have done all of this in a really, really short period of time. And it looks like it's going to be as good as it possibly could be. And I'm kind of proud of the league for that. I think they've done a really great job of, in a really difficult situation, keeping us informed, keeping us safe, and making it exciting. Like, I'm excited to go to Edmonton. I hope I get to stay for a very, very long time. It's like this enormous summer camp. Maybe I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to leaving.
Do you expect there to be, what do you expect the interactions, I guess, to be like? I know that there's a lot of trying to keep people separated, but do you think that there will be coaches, interactions there?
I think we got the
summer camp theme.
Yeah, no, I think we got the John Ferguson senior rules here for the first 6 days, right? So like, we're locked on our floor. You're not allowed to not even look at a guy on another team. But I don't know the answer to that. This is, no, it's not going to be casual. Like, you'll say your hello to the people that you know, and you'll have your 5-minute conversation. But the playoffs is also a really, really busy time. There's not a lot of downtime. Certainly for the coaches, you're grinding video and you're trying to find an edge all the time. So yeah, summer camp, that'll be the off days maybe, but I think this gets to be all business pretty quick, and we'll all kind of keep to ourselves.